There are angels, and then there are other things. Beings that just happen to wear the shape of angels. Entities so vast, so alien, that to even look at them is to risk your sanity. This is the story of a mortal man who became one of them. A man who climbed to a level of power so absolute, he became something more terrifying than any demon. We're not talking about a guardian angel with fluffy wings. We are talking about Metatron, a name whispered in the hidden corners of Jewish mysticism. The humble origin. To understand the monster, you have to first understand the man, and for that, we have to go back to the book of Genesis. Our story starts on Earth, with a man named Enoch. He lived in a world teetering on the brink of chaos, a world that God would eventually decide to wash clean with a great flood. But Enoch was different. The scripture describes him with a simple but powerful line. He walked faithfully with God. He was the great-grandfather of Noah, living in an age of giants and fallen angels. While everyone else was lost to corruption, Enoch lived a life of such piety that his connection to the divine was said to be unbroken. For 365 years, he walked this righteous path. But Enoch's story doesn't end with a peaceful death and a quiet grave. It ends with one of the most cryptic lines in the entire Bible. He was no more because God took him away. This wasn't death, it was an abduction, a removal. Enoch, the righteous man, vanished from the world, taken alive. And while this event is just a footnote in Genesis, it becomes the terrifying prologue to a story found in non-biblical texts. For Enoch, this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a horrifying and glorious new existence. The Ascension. This trip wasn't a gentle float up to the clouds. Ancient apocryphal texts, especially the Book of Enoch, describe a harrowing journey through the cosmos, a guided tour of creation's secret and terrifying architecture. It's in these texts, which are not part of the standard Bible, that the story truly begins. Imagine being ripped from everything you know and thrown into a reality that your brain can't even process. The third book of Enoch, a later mystical text, dives even deeper. It tells the story of a rabbi who travels to the heavens and meets the thing that Enoch has become. This journey wasn't a simple tour, it was an ordeal. Enoch was forced through celestial gates guarded by legions of angels. He witnessed the mechanics of the universe, the storehouses of snow and hail, the chambers of the winds. He saw the pits where fallen angels were punished, and the abyss where fallen stars were judged. He was being shown the sheer, overwhelming scale of divine power and divine wrath. But he wasn't just there to see the sights. He was being remade. He was brought before the very throne of God into a presence that no mortal was ever meant to survive. And it was there that the true, terrifying purpose of his abduction was finally revealed. He wasn't just a visitor. He was a candidate for something entirely new, the horrific transformation. What happened next is one of the most unsettling descriptions in all of mystical literature. The man known as Enoch was about to be stripped of his humanity in the most absolute way you can imagine. The third book of Enoch describes his transformation not as a gentle blessing, but as the complete annihilation of his mortal form. His flesh, it says, turned to flame. His veins, which once carried blood, now coursed with fire. His eyelashes became flashes of lightning, and his eyeballs turned into flaming torches. Every part of him was unmade and remade in pure, celestial energy. It was an apotheosis so violent it sounds like something out of a cosmic horror story. His human body expanded to an impossible scale, becoming as vast as the world itself. He was given 72 wings, symbolizing a supreme angelic rank, and 365,000 eyes, one for each day of the year, granting him a terrifying, inescapable omniscience. And then God gave him a new name, Metatron. He was placed on a throne right next to God's own throne of glory, an honor unheard of for any angel, let alone a former mortal. In that moment, Enoch the man was gone. In his place stood a being of fire and light, a creature whose very existence was a terrifying bridge between the finite and the infinite. This wasn't just becoming an angel. This was becoming a new category of being, the Unfathomable Power. With this new form came a staggering level of authority. While Metatron isn't found in the Bible, in mystical texts like 3 Enoch, he is elevated to a position of immense power, becoming the Prince of the Divine Presence. In some of these traditions, his authority is so great that other angels, even archangels, must answer to him, though this isn't a universally held belief, with some sources maintaining that an archangel like Michael is his equal or superior. His primary job? The heavenly scribe. With a quill of fire, he sits and records every single deed of humanity in the Book of Life. Nothing escapes his thousands of eyes. Every thought, word, and action is etched into the eternal record that will be used on the Day of Judgment. But his most controversial title is the Lesser Yahweh. In these texts, God himself declares, "My name is in him," giving Metatron a piece of his own divine authority. This concept was so radical it caused a crisis. When one rabbi saw Metatron sitting on his throne, a privilege that should be for God alone, he cried out in horror, "Perhaps there are, God forbid, 2 powers in heaven." To prove he wasn't a second god, the Talmud tells a story where Metatron is punished with 60 lashes from a fiery rod, a brutal reminder that even he is just a servant. Still, some mystics have even identified him as the angel who led the Israelites through the wilderness. The very voice of God given form. The terrifying implications. The figure of Metatron, who exists almost entirely within Jewish mystical literature, presents some chilling ideas. He represents a paradox, a being who is both human and angel, a servant who is also a lesser god. The horror of Metatron isn't that he's evil, it's his sheer scale and the violence of his creation. Imagine a person you know being elevated to a state where their body is a pillar of fire and their gaze is all-knowing. That isn't a comforting thought. It's the ultimate example of what it means to be taken by God, to be so utterly remade that your identity is completely consumed and erased. The idea of the Lesser Yahweh also created a theological storm. The notion of 2 powers in heaven was a dangerous heresy in a strictly monotheistic religion. Yet the figure of Metatron persisted in these mystical circles. He exists in a gray area, so powerful that he challenges the definition of a single god. This even led to outside critics, like the 11th century scholar Ibn Hazm, accusing some Jews of worshipping an angel, a charge that doesn't reflect mainstream Jewish practice. Metatron is the man who became so much like a god, he had to be punished to prove he wasn't one. He is the ultimate insider, who knows all of heaven's secrets, yet he will always be an outsider because of his human origins. The story of Metatron is a haunting look at power, identity, and the terrifying closeness of the divine. It forces us to ask what it really means to walk with God. Is it a path to salvation, or a road to an existence so alien it burns away everything that makes you human? From the pious man Enoch to the cosmic entity Metatron, his journey suggests that in the face of true divine power, a person isn't just lifted up, they are obliterated and rebuilt into something awe-inspiring, magnificent, and utterly terrifying. So, what do you think? Is this the ultimate story of human potential, or is it a cautionary tale about losing yourself completely? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to explore more hidden horrors from ancient lore, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. You never know what we'll uncover next.